Hello, and welcome to Great Sleep. Get ready to listen and relax. Today I'm going to tell you a cozy bedtime story about a gardener who loved to take care of his wonderful garden so that it would please the people of the city with its appearance. Thomas Reynolds was a middle-aged man who lived in a small countryside town during the early 1900s. He had chosen a quiet life away from the bustle of the city, finding solace in the simplicity of nature. His quaint cottage, nestled among rolling hills and surrounded by lush greenery, was a testament to his love for the natural world. The cottage itself was a charming structure, its walls adorned with climbing vines that seemed to whisper secrets to anyone who passed by. The front yard was a colorful tapestry of wildflowers, each one carefully chosen and nurtured by Thomas's skilled hands. But it was the garden behind the cottage that truly captured the imagination. As one walked through the wooden gate and entered the garden, a world of enchantment unfolded. Vibrant flowers bloomed in every corner, their petals reaching towards the sun as if eager to soak in its warmth. Tall trees stood like ancient sentinels, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. The air was filled with the sweet scent of jasmine and roses, mingling together in a harmonious symphony. Thomas spent most of his days tending to his garden, his hands covered in soil as he carefully pruned, watered, and nurtured each plant. He had a deep connection with nature, understanding its rhythms and secrets like an old friend. The garden was his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself in the beauty and tranquility of the natural world. Despite his love for gardening, Thomas was a reserved man, preferring the company of plants over people. He had few interactions with his neighbors and townspeople, content to live a solitary life. Some called him eccentric, others found him mysterious, but everyone agreed that there was something special about his garden. Every morning, as the sun began to rise, Thomas would step out into his garden, a watering can in one hand and a pair of pruning shears in the other. He would start by tending to the roses, gently removing any dead or withered petals, allowing the vibrant ones to take center stage. As he worked, his eyes would sparkle with a quiet joy, his heart filled with gratitude for the beauty that surrounded him. One day, as Thomas was carefully trimming the hedges, a curious neighbor named Mrs. Jenkins approached him. She had heard whispers about the extraordinary beauty of his garden and couldn't resist the temptation to see it for herself. "Good morning, Mr. Reynolds," Mrs. Jenkins greeted him with a smile. "I couldn't help but notice how magnificent your garden is. It's like something out of a fairy tale." Thomas looked up from his work, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Thank you, Mrs. Jenkins. It's a labor of love, you see." I believe that nature has a way of enchanting our souls if we take the time to listen. Mrs. Jenkins nodded, her eyes filled with wonder. There's something magical about this place, isn't there? It feels like stepping into another world. Thomas chuckled softly. Perhaps there's a touch of magic here, hidden within the petals and leaves. But it's not just the garden that holds the magic, it's the connection we forge with nature that makes it come alive. Mrs. Jenkins nodded again, her curiosity piqued. Do you mind if I take a closer look? There's so much beauty to explore. Thomas gestured for her to follow him as he led her deeper into the garden. Each step revealed a new treasure, a delicate orchid hidden beneath a fern, a patch of forget-me-nots carpeting the ground, and a small pond teeming with colorful koi fish. As they walked, Thomas shared his knowledge and passion for each plant, describing their unique qualities and the care they required. Mrs. Jenkins listened intently, her eyes wide with awe. She had never seen such dedication and love for nature before. Word of Thomas's extraordinary garden began to spread throughout the town, capturing the imaginations of young and old alike. Among those who became fascinated by its allure was a young girl named Emily. She had heard tales of the secret garden and couldn't resist the pull of its enchantment. One sunny afternoon, Emily approached Thomas's cottage, her steps light with anticipation. She knocked on the door, her heart pounding with excitement. When Thomas answered, his eyes widened in surprise at the sight of the young girl standing before him. "Hello, sir," Emily greeted him shyly. "I've heard so much about your garden. May I have a peek inside?" Thomas smiled warmly at the eager girl. "Of course, my dear. Come in." He led Emily through the wooden gate and into the garden, her eyes widening in wonder as she took in the sight before her. The vibrant colors and fragrant scents enveloped her senses, filling her with a sense of joy she had never experienced before. "Oh, it's even more beautiful than I imagined," Emily exclaimed, twirling around in delight. Thomas chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Beauty has a way of surpassing our wildest dreams, doesn't it? Emily nodded, her gaze fixed on a cluster of sunflowers swaying in the breeze. "I wish I could make something as beautiful as this," she murmured. Thomas placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, his voice filled with encouragement. "You have a gift within you, Emily. Just like these flowers, you only need to nurture it and let it bloom." From that day forward, Emily became a frequent visitor to Thomas's garden. They would spend hours exploring its hidden corners, discovering new wonders with each step. Their shared love for nature forged a deep bond between them as they dreamed of a more beautiful world. As the whispers of the secret garden grew louder, so did the rumors of its magical properties. Some claimed that the flowers possessed healing abilities, while others believed that the garden held the key to eternal youth. Thomas and Emily listened to these tales with a mix of amusement and awe, knowing that there was indeed something extraordinary about their beloved sanctuary. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the garden, Thomas and Emily sat on a wooden bench, their eyes fixed on the dancing fireflies that illuminated the night. "Do you think there's really magic in this garden, Mr. Reynolds?" Emily asked, her voice filled with wonder. Thomas smiled, his gaze drifting to a cluster of moonflowers that bloomed only at night. "Magic comes in many forms, my dear. It may not be the kind you find in fairy tales, but it's real nonetheless." Emily leaned closer, her eyes shining with curiosity. "Tell me more, Mr. Reynolds. I want to understand." Thomas took a deep breath, his voice soft and filled with reverence. "Nature has a way of healing our souls, Emily. When we connect with the earth, when we immerse ourselves in its beauty, we tap into a wellspring of peace and joy. That, my dear, is the true magic of this garden." Emily nodded slowly, her heart swelling with understanding. "I feel it too, Mr. Reynolds. When I'm here, surrounded by all this beauty, it's like everything else fades away. It's just me in the garden." Thomas smiled warmly, a sense of pride swelling within him. "You have a gift, Emily. Your love for nature is a powerful force. Cherish it, nurture it, and never let it fade." As the days turned into weeks, Thomas and Emily's bond deepened, their shared love for the garden becoming a driving force in their lives. And yet, there was a lingering question that gnawed at Thomas's mind, a question that held the key to the garden's extraordinary beauty. One morning, as the sun bathed the garden in its gentle warmth, Thomas stood before a cluster of roses, his hands trembling with anticipation. He had spent countless hours studying the plants, searching for clues to the garden's secret. And finally, he had found it. With bated breath, Thomas reached down to the base of a rosebush and gently brushed aside the soil. His heart skipped a beat as he uncovered a hidden spring, its crystal clear waters glistening in the sunlight. It was this hidden source of nourishment that had sustained the garden all along. Emily watched in awe as Thomas unveiled the secret. "It's like a hidden treasure," she whispered. Thomas nodded, his voice filled with wonder. "Indeed, Emily. This spring is the lifeblood of the garden. It nourishes each plant, giving them the strength to bloom with such beauty. Emily reached out to touch the water, her fingers tingling with a newfound sense of awe. "It's like magic," she murmured. Thomas smiled, his eyes reflecting the sunlight dancing on the water's surface. "Perhaps it is, my dear. But it's not just the spring that holds the magic, it's our connection to it, our belief in its transformative power." With the secret of the garden unveiled, Thomas and Emily felt a newfound sense of responsibility. They knew that they had to protect the garden from those who would exploit its beauty for personal gain. And so, they became the guardians of this magical sanctuary, vowing to keep it safe from harm. One sunny afternoon, as Thomas and Emily walked hand in hand through the garden, their eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of trouble, they stumbled upon a group of developers surveying the land. "What are they doing here, Mr. Reynolds?" Emily asked, her voice filled with concern. Thomas's jaw tightened as he watched the developers, their eyes gleaming with greed. "They seek to destroy this garden, my dear. They see it as nothing more than a piece of land to be exploited." Emily's eyes welled up with tears, her voice filled with determination. "We can't let them destroy it, Mr. Reynolds. This garden is too precious." Thomas nodded, his voice filled with resolve. "You're right, Emily. We must rally the community, show them the true value of nature's beauty." Thomas and Emily spent days and nights spreading the word about the garden's impending doom. They spoke to neighbors, friends, and even strangers passing through town, sharing stories of the garden's transformative power and the need to protect it. As the community rallied behind them, Thomas and Emily organized workshops and events to teach others about the importance of nurturing nature. They taught young children how to plant seeds and tend to their own gardens, instilling in them a love for the earth and its wonders. With each passing day, the garden became a symbol of hope and renewal for the town. People started cultivating their own gardens, bringing bursts of color and life to every corner. The community came together, united by their shared belief in the power of nature's beauty. As the battle to protect the garden raged on, Thomas and Emily found solace in their friendship. They leaned on each other for support and guidance, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. One evening, as they sat on the wooden bench in the garden, their eyes fixed on the sunset painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Emily turned to Thomas with a smile. "Mr. Reynolds, I'm so grateful for your friendship," she said softly. "You've taught me so much about the beauty of nature and the importance of protecting it." Thomas placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice filled with warmth. "And I am grateful for you, Emily. Your passion and love for the garden have inspired me more than you know." They sat in silence for a moment, their hearts connected by a shared understanding of the transformative power of friendship and nature. In that moment, they knew that they were not alone. They had each other in the garden to guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead. As the community embraced the beauty of nature, the town began to flourish. Visitors from far and wide flocked to see the garden, their eyes filled with wonder as they marveled at its breathtaking beauty. The once sleepy town came alive with energy and vibrancy, its streets lined with colorful flower stalls and bustling markets. The garden had become a gathering place, a sanctuary for those seeking solace and inspiration. People would sit on benches, their faces turned towards the sun, as they soaked in the beauty that surrounded them. It was a place of healing, where worries melted away and dreams took flight. Thomas and Emily watched with pride as their vision became a reality. They had not only protected the garden, they had nurtured a community, fostering a sense of unity and hope. Just as the town was basking in the newfound beauty and harmony, a new challenge emerged. The developers, undeterred by the community's resistance, returned with plans to build a commercial complex on the land where the garden stood. Thomas and Emily stood before the developers, their voices filled with determination. They pleaded with them to reconsider, to see the value of preserving nature's beauty instead of destroying it for profit. But the developers remained unmoved, their eyes fixed on the potential financial gain. It seemed as if all hope was lost. Undeterred by the developers' stubbornness, Thomas and Emily refused to back down. They rallied the community once again, organizing protests and petitions, determined to protect the garden at all costs. One fateful day, as the developers prepared to break ground, a crowd of townspeople gathered at the entrance of the garden. They held signs with messages of love and unity, their voices raised in unison, demanding that the garden be saved. Thomas and Emily stepped forward, their eyes shining with conviction. They pleaded with the developers, their words filled with passion and sincerity. They shared stories of how the garden had transformed their lives and the lives of countless others. As the crowd watched, their hearts filled with hope, a change came over the developers. Their eyes softened, their faces reflecting a newfound understanding. They realized that there was more to be gained from preserving the garden than from destroying it. With a collective sigh of relief, the town celebrated the preservation of the garden. Thomas and Emily stood side by side, their hearts overflowing with gratitude and joy. The garden continued to flourish, its beauty expanding beyond its boundaries. The community embraced its role as stewards of nature, nurturing their own gardens and spreading beauty throughout the town. The once divided town had become a tapestry of color and life, a testament to the transformative power of nature's beauty. As Thomas and Emily walked through the garden, their hands brushing against the petals of blooming flowers, they knew that their journey had just begun. They had not only protected a garden, they had ignited a spark within the hearts of all who had witnessed its beauty. And so, with each passing day, the garden grew, its beauty reaching far beyond the boundaries of the town. It became a symbol of hope and renewal, reminding all who encountered it of the magic that lies within the natural world. And in the hearts of Thomas and Emily, the garden would forever remain a sanctuary, a place where dreams took root and miracles bloomed.